We are live. Ooh.
All right, welcome everyone. We are live on the Ripple Effect, and I saw Erica's excited to be back in the saddle here. They say there's no business like show business. Huh?
Aha. I've missed the ripple effect. This is the ripple effect where we talk about little things that create big change and positivity in a crazy, chaotic world.
Yeah, excellent. And I know Corey and I did a little regroup on Quantum Leap earlier. We'll have to talk about that at some point to let people kind of know about the themes of this show. That I think really in general, it's a show that we focus on. Oh, looks like I'm gonna have to enable the waiting room here.
No. That's me. I just signed in improperly, so don't
Yeah.
worry.
But I mean, we really focus on health mostly, but not all of our guests are on health. So we can revisit that. I did want to, since this is our first show back in 2022, just ask how your break was, Erica, and just see what you're up to for your goals for 2022. Or you don't have to say any of that. You can just check in briefly if you want that opportunity.
Well, of course, I want to check in. I'm doing great. I'm getting ready to go to an exciting training in Vegas safely. We pray. My comrade Harold and I were going to Vegas for a health conference Thursday to Sunday. So really excited about that. And staying safe, staying well, helping others to stay safe, stay well in these challenging times. And I got to be a guest on a podcast last night with this mother-daughter coach couple. It was really cute and special. So that was a lot of fun. And I'm so excited about our guest that we have on today. So let's welcome our guest, Elisabeth Stitt.
Yeah, I'm sorry we like to usually announce her earlier on, and that's my bad. We're still getting back to it, but Elisabeth is a parenting expert, and we'll get to her in just a second. But I did want to just
How are you doing?
do a quick check-in that well, I talked about my two big goals, continue to be my business and my health, and I'm making strides on my fitness goals. So I didn't want to talk about it quite as much on the air this year. I'm just going to show you the results, and then as I progress, I can tell you what's working. We've been in pretty close touch about some of this stuff, but we will do some more drill down on that as we go forward. I do love those, vitamins and some of the supplements that you need to get there that we've worked on, and exercise, of course. But I find when I get this discipline back, it carries over to so many other areas of my life in producing results in business, but also other things that I want to accomplish. Yeah, ripple effect. And
Yeah,
I haven't
healthy lifestyle shifts for your life. Plant
and
powders help that healthy lifestyle shifts for your life, a catalyst for goodness. Yeah.
yes, and this discipline's also using to develop my new Rising Star program, which is a business development program that's going to launch initially on March 1st, and then a second phase on June 1st. So we talked about that on Quantum Leap, and I'll look forward to getting your input on that. We'll do check-ins on that and the ripple effect. But with that, I did want to get right to Elisabeth and apologize for leaving her hanging for so long. If you don't mind, Erica, just giving us a brief introduction to her and why you brought her on. I know this is probably one of the most pertinent guests to my life that we've had. So as a parenting coach.
Yeah. Is anyone out there struggling with family and teens and just dynamics with what's going on here with sheltering in place, not sheltering in place, the rules? This is Elisabeth Stitt, and she is a joyful parenting coach, and she's my comrade and colleague in with our business coach, Katerina Rando. So Elisabeth, why don't you come off of, or you already are, and say where you are in the world and how you're doing, anything you want to say to just check in, and then we can start grilling you for amazing, fun material.
All right. First of all, I want to say I love the title. Right? I love the ripple effect idea. That is so awesome because it really tells us how small actions and small changes can have a big change down the road. And I think that's totally enheartening if you are a parent and you're feeling down about your parenting, to think like, ooh, I just need to make this little adjustment, this little butterfly wing, and that's actually going to send things that are going to make a big difference. So I am in Monterey, California, something which gives me enormous joy. Uh, totally happy living near the ocean. And what was the other thing you wanted to hear, Erica?
Um, you are you are a parenting coach and you help bring the joy back where there might not be joy. And I love that name. That's a great name. Tell
Yeah,
us about that.
it is. And one of the interesting things about parenting coaches is that when we all sit down in a room together, we pretty much have a really core understanding of what is effective with kids. And then we go out into our marketing world and we kind of have to decide, well, from this core understanding of what's effective for kids, what's the piece that I really want to own? Is it the peaceful parent, um, the deliberate parent, the conscious parent? And yeah, for me, joyful was just sort of a um, yeah, like when I think in my mind of like, if I were a character from a book, I would probably be Tigger from Winnie the Pooh, who's just bouncing around all the time. and and that's I've got a ton of bouncy energy, and that's not for everybody. So if you're looking for the peaceful parent, go find the peaceful parent, because I can talk a lot about being calm and peaceful, but there's always going to be this element of bouncy underneath it. So that's how I got to joyful.
I'm so glad that you're Tigger. I actually played Piglet in a play, the Winnie the Pooh play, but I feel very Tigger like too.
Yes,
That's why we
I
play
think we
well
could be
together.
part of the Tigger Club, Erica.
What character are you from Winnie the Pooh, David? If you know what we're talking about?
Yeah, I'm a little rusty. I don't remember all the characters except for Winnie and Tigger. I don't. I heard that it was an actual day of Winnie the Pooh Day today.
Oh,
Or-
really?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I love
And
that.
then when I
That's
saw that,
right.
yeah.
That's fabulous. Yeah.
When I was
I thought that's why you were bringing it up, but maybe you saw it somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Nope. Just was just thinking about it.
That's so fun. Well, anyway, that that kind of analogy of those characters from Winnie the Pooh are great for understanding the different kinds of qualities you might see in a family dynamic and how you work with those different qualities like spices, and bring out the best and the strengths. Yeah, you do that with your families that you work with, Miss Stitt.
I do. I do. I mean, one of the things that I love about being a parenting coach is that it's like this great puzzle, right? So when we get everybody on the table and we think of, who are all the players and what are the complications, then we can begin to see like, well, how are we going to fit together into one cohesive whole beautiful family?
Yeah. And you have many tools for how you support and serve. And I'd love for you to talk about that. And just like how you offer what you do with whether it's in online group workshops, you offer all of it, and your website is really comprehensive. So just tell us some stuff. And for the person who's just tuning in, you are listening to the Ripple Effect, where we interview people. And Elisabeth is our guest, and she's a joyful parenting coach.
Well, let's see. Everything almost entirely is online, and a lot of it was online already before COVID. And probably the only thing that I do in person is in home observations. Uh, and that can be super useful just to when parents have a hard time describing what's going on, or like they feel like they've tried a lot of different things and they just don't know what's missing, especially if I've talked to them and I I'm hearing what they're doing and it all sounds pretty good. Sometimes an in-home observation can be that one piece, but everything else is online, and people are surprised how effective coaching over Zoom and over the phone can be. That we really can connect, we can learn about each other, and of course it solves a lot of the logistical issues.
Yeah, no one has to clean their toilet for you.
No one has to clean the toilet for me, or they don't have to get across town to my office or to my classroom, and they can be at home. They don't need a babysitter. That's really, all these things are significant. Pre-COVID days, often I was talking to one parent on a cell phone in the parking lot of one company and one parent on the cell phone in the parking lot of another company, because that was how they could get the privacy that they really felt that they needed in order to be able to talk about their parenting. So
Yeah, I thought maybe we get into a few anecdotes, and as I was telling you, I have a 6-year-old who's going to be 7, and a 16-year-old who's my stepdaughter, and she's probably almost out of the house if she goes away to college in a year and a half. But one thing that I've been thinking of recently is, when can I start, teaching them more like adult stuff? I just see that there's this gap between like what's gotten me successful and how can I, you serve as an example to them, but I have, like, for example, these habits in my daily process, that how can I start teaching my kids like success habits that's like designed for adults, or when should I do that? And I know we do a lot of it that's designed for their age, but I was going to see if you had any thoughts on that.
oh yeah, I mean, so Maria Montessori said, don't do for the child what she can do for herself. So at any one given age, if you look at that and you really kind of take that to its edge, and the only caveat there is what's the emotional balance, right? Sometimes we can like physically, intellectually do something, but emotionally we're not ready to do something. Emotionally, we're still feeling like a younger age than maybe the age which is, um, you know, that we celebrated on our last birthday. And so for a 6-year-old, let's just use a 6-year-old since you have her, what are the kinds of things a 6-year-old can do? She can get up, she can do her ablutions, she can get herself dressed, she can make her bed. My 6-year-old was making her lunch, and sure, she sometimes needed help to get that jar open, or, in the days when kids still eat peanut butter, which we don't anymore because, of allergies, the business of getting it stuck on the bread might need some help. But basically, she was making her own lunch. So that whole morning routine was hers. And I was there in case she needed me. Something was stuck. She needed me to reach for something. There was a package which was difficult to open. But she was 100% consistent on that, on her own. So that's a really good place to start. 6-year-olds should be basically doing their homework on their own. They may need a study buddy, right? Speaking of 6-year-olds, 3-year-olds. Sorry. 6-year-olds may need the support of having somebody in the room while they do their work. And they may, if they're getting homework, they may need to be taught a system for doing it. Like, okay, how are you going to keep track of your work? What's going to be a good time for us to sit down every day for you to do it? How are you going to make sure with your teacher that you understand what it is? And once you have that in place, it really means that you are sitting down near them. Preferably you're doing your own work, and you're letting them get on with it. And that gives them the sort of parasympathetic support of, we're working. Erika and I like to do that ourselves. We like to have accountability sessions on Zoom to kind of keep us going and keep us focused. But it really means that even a 6-year-old can own her own homework. And that's what her job is right now. And where we can step in as parents is helping to learn strategies. So strategies for studying something, strategies for checking work, strategies for keeping work. Forgive me.
That's okay. It's all very real and raw here at the Ripple Effect. No problem. You know, I just love Elizabeth's setting up. What I hear and what she's saying is like there's a lot of order, and she brings order and joy to what could be a very chaotic, drama-filled time for families. So,
Well, okay, and I should announce my bias, right? And here's my bias. My bias is that coming to coaching from 25 years of teaching, I know that in the classroom, we know, nationally, we know from studies that effective teachers are measured by their time on task. And time on task means the time actually learning. It doesn't mean taking attendance. It doesn't mean collecting permission slips. It doesn't mean handing out books. It doesn't mean cleaning up the room at the end. It doesn't mean filing in and out of the room. It means time learning. For parenting, I think time on task is the juicy stuff. That's when we get to be together. That's when we're at the table, or we're playing a board game, or we're all cooking in the kitchen together. So for me, systems and routines and structures are things that help everything else go more efficiently, so that when we show up together, we get so for families, the time on task is really that connection time. And so I have to say I am totally biased towards systems and routines.
Yeah, that's great.
that's our structure. That structure that my British brother-in-law, they really love their ritual of their structure of the day. They feel that helped their daughters have order in their lives.
Well,
I hear how that works for you and your families that you support.
and it has some other benefits too, such as it helps to develop the critical thinking, problem solving muscle, right? So when I'm teaching my 6-year-old how to be responsible for her own homework, I'm not saying, look, here, this is what you need to do. First, you have to do this, then you have to do this, then you have to do that. Because even with a 6-year-old, what she comes up with herself and what she analyzes herself is going to have more meaning to her, and she's more likely to follow through on it with joy. So it's going to be a questioning and a coming to and an analysis of, right? So if we've worked for 20 minutes, and a 6-year-old certainly shouldn't be working more than 20 minutes. If we've worked for 20 minutes and she hasn't gotten anything done, then we can support her with the well, why don't you think you got that done? And can go through. Did the teacher give you too much? Did you not understand it? Were you thinking about something else? And then what could you do next time to do it? And by the way, pro tip, I used to invite all of my parents, when your child has worked the appropriate amount of time on 7th grade English, which was, 20 to 25 minutes, make them stop. Make them stop. And if it's nothing, or it feels like it's too little, write me a note. Give me some insights as to why, if they really did. And it might be like, yeah, that was 5 minutes of pencil sharpening and 5 minutes of booger picking, and 5 minutes of looking at the way that the ceiling fan went around and around and around. But that's really valuable information for me to know as a teacher, because it's going to help me know how to connect to that kid.
I know, David, you're about to say something, but just, it sounds very much in alignment with what this feng shui declutter teacher is teaching. Like, we're doing the Pomodoro method with 25-minute increments, and then you stop and you take a 5-minute break. And, that's in alignment. 20 minutes for a child. Making it doable, making the tasks. It's like, teaching kids how to do their work. They're becoming future workers, having it be manageable and doable, and helping those kids win. That's what you really help with. What were you going to say, David?
I just love how she opens up a number of possibilities of seeing things that I'd just say parenting, I think, is probably one of the hardest jobs in the whole world, especially if you don't have any of your own resources. And I feel like once you go through it, then you can do it better. But then your kids leave the house and then you're ready. I mean, maybe for the grandkids at that point, but so the more you can get kind of ongoing or initially, and which was what I was going to ask you about, is how you work with people in terms of if you want to be a better parent. How do you kind of get started? Is it like a weekly meeting, or you do like group coaching, or should I read more parenting books, or
Okay, so before I tell you how I work with parents, I just want to pick up on something that you said and really emphasize that, right? Like, we can't throw out the first pancake with kids. I've tried, but like they center back to me. So, which is one of the advantages of teaching, was that I got so much practice on other people's kids. Why do we need parenting coaches? We've never had parenting coaches before. And we didn't have them before because parenting is a social skill. It's a skill we used to learn in communities. And we lived in communities, and we lived in multi-generational communities. And so, from the day that we said, Mom, I'm going out to play, and she said, that's great, but take your brother David with you. And now I've got David in tow. Ugh. And I have to figure out how to make things good and fun and okay for him. I'm having these micro parenting experiences. In today's society, we're very segmented by our grade level, age level activities, right? So kids go to school, they go to soccer with the 5 to 6 year olds, they go to taekwondo with the 6 to 8 year olds. They don't have these big messes. And we tend not to be gathering in places like church, where maybe you would then go to the after church, you'd be in the fellowship hall, and the kids would be running around, and parents would get a chance to observe, like, oh, how did you observe, you've got a 6-year-old, how are you doing 6? And, oh, look, there's an 8-year-old, what does 8 look like? So we don't have any of that anymore. So that's really what a parenting coach is doing, is because parenting is a skill, it's just a more efficient way to download techniques, tools, strategies, approaches, so that you can get it more efficiently. So I do that mostly through one-on-one coaching. And a coaching session sort of looks like, at the end of every coaching session, you get some kind of homework, which is to say, you make a commitment to either an action or an attitude, or maybe an observation, like just that you're going to observe. And so we always start the next session with, well, how did your homework go? And I do call it homework because I'm a teacher, so, old paradigms. And so in examining how did the homework go, we then ask the question, well, did it not go well because it just needs more time? Did it not go well because it wasn't the right homework? Right? Sometimes I'll ask parents to try something, and I'm always pulling out of my tool bag that thing which I have found to work with the most kids. That means most, that doesn't mean all. So, I do my best to listen to who your kid is and to how things are going, and to find the tool that's going to be a good match. But sometimes it isn't. So you come back and you go like, nope, that didn't work. So then we go like, okay, let's reach for another one, or how can we tweak this one? The middle of the session is kind of what new pain points came up during the week, or was there a scene that, and a lot of times we do a role play and we kind of rehash it. Like, I'll say, like, I'll hear it and then say, okay, have we talked about tool X, Y, or Z that might use in this situation? What do you think? Does this feel like a tool that would work for your family? Let's try it. And then very often we do it 2 run-throughs. One where I'm the parent and they're the kid, and then one where I'm the kid and I'm very good at being a very stubborn kid, and they're the parent who's then trying to deal with that. So in that way, they build skills. And of course, then one of the things that happens is we begin to see where skill A could be applied to multiple situations. And so they get more facile at being able to choose tools and use them in the moment.
No, good stuff. And, as a kind of a business coach myself, or in that mindset, I do think, and I have some fitness coaches as well. I do think parenting would be kind of an ideal thing to have a coach for. So I actually will look at that and as another area of my life to get a coach on. So, and I like that idea of the one-on-one too, because everybody is in such a different situation depending on their personality, in that the children or child's, or maybe there's more than one child, and how they react. And then just having a support system, I think, especially as a single parent too, would even be a bigger thing too. So, very, very interesting stuff. And I know there's so much to this topic that kind of gets me thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that parents and families can win with your expertise and support and making it fun. You have so many tools in your toolbox. I know that from getting to know you, Elisabeth, and seeing how you work. And I can't wait to see more of how you work, because I get ideas too as a therapist, because I'm always like figuring out what works for one person doesn't work for another. And so, I mean, I just can't say enough about how great what your offering is, and to get with you, whether it's a free talk or a workshop or a family workshop, like to go for it, get on Elisabeth's website. And, there's this cool little button that pops up to say hi, and you can connect with her. It's a great feature. Everybody should have that on their website, by the way.
Yeah, the box is fun.
Yeah. So
I don't know if we noted that you're a former teacher, I thought, which was a great experience too. And yeah.
Yeah, and that definitely means, it definitely means that you come to it from a different perspective. I probably am more nuts and bolts than a therapist would be coming to that situation. And there's obviously value in both perspectives, and I always try to share with parents what my bias is because of that. And I think one of the useful things that it allows me to do is I'm really good at the low-hanging fruit. Right? So I like to use the analogy of every morning my dad used to come roaring through the house like, where is my GD wallet? I can't find it. In those days, he called it his idiot book, which was his day planner. I, David, what? I'll pay $5 to anyone who can find my keys. And we had all this drama in the morning. And on the whole, my dad is a really super chill, laid back, friendly, wonderful guy. And I do not think he had any idea how that held our nervous systems hostage in the morning when he did that. And it wasn't until I was a lot older that I looked back and I was like, why didn't you have a drawer, a hook, a shelf, a something? And I asked my mother once, and she's like, oh, you can't corral your father. And I was thinking, Mom, I'm pretty sure that if you had shown up at the door, thrown your arms around him, started kissing him like crazy, and at the same time said, here, let me take your keys, and and your wallet. I like reaching into your pocket. I'm pretty sure he would have handed that stuff over to you every day, and he would have just gotten into the habit of knowing that his wallet, his keys, his glasses, his idiot book were right there by the door when he was going to go out. That's low-hanging fruit. Like, families should not be having those kinds of scenes when there are really kind of easy solutions. And it's not going to be the same solution for every family, right? You can't come in and say, what you need to do is. But most families, if they take a deep breath and they slow down and they say, do you think you could think of a strategy for keeping all of your stuff organized so that you knew right where it was in the morning?
Yeah, so it's like getting that logic brain online.
Yeah, and part of it is
making explicit what was implicit.
Yeah, and just giving the space for it. right?
Mhm.
That and helping them, sometimes you have to do a little bit of deep thinking. It's like, if the keys aren't going in the drawer, okay, it probably means they're in the pocket, which probably means that your hands are full as you're coming in from the car. So yes, stuff needs to be brought from the car. Could we do it in such a way that has a free hand, so that the
Mm.
keys are staying in the hand, so that they don't go in the pocket? Because if they stay in the hand, they'll go in the drawer. If they stay in the pocket, who God knows where they're going to come out, right? So just kind of thinking those things. I call that low hanging fruit.
Yeah, I mean, two of the things that I think's helped me the most with parenting is just that my own personal development journey that I've learned recently to really study. One is kind of what we call paradigms. That's this kind of, that's a paradigm right there, to where, how, you know, acting that way and then people aren't aware of it, but the first step is awareness. The other thing's vocabulary. How, if you hear the language or how people talk to their kids, and we all do it at some point if we're upset or whatever, but if you talk to them in an annoying way, they're going to give you like an annoying reaction. So the more aware we can be of our paradigms as a parent and how they react, I think where a parenting coach would be powerful is actually help us create better paradigms, because then they're going to react differently, because without some type of instruction, you don't always know what those strategies are.
And what I love is that your child is providing you the opportunity to learn some of these things that for them, you really need to learn, and you can learn for them. And the act of teaching them is a great way for you to learn them. So, if you are disorganized, or if you struggle with anger management, right? It's fabulous. Or if you're stressed all the time, right? Now you have a kid who's got anxiety and is, knocking on the therapist door because they have anxiety. Well, that's great. And at the same time, there's so much that you can do to model de-stressing, and the process of you doing that and figuring it out. And I like for parents to do it sort of metacognitively, right? To say to their kids, like, okay, I feel myself getting stressed. Whoa, am I tight in my throat? Or boy, have I noticed that my jaw is getting tight, or I've been clenching down. And so in modeling and noticing for themselves, it's double dipping, because they are both helping their body to identify, which means as soon as I've identified that my hands are clenched, I can go like, whoo, gotta let go of that tension.
Yeah.
And I'm modeling it for my child. And so when my child is getting stressed and having a time, and if I say, okay, looking at you is swamping me with stress, so I'm going to take a moment. You can do it with me if you want. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to massage my jaw a little bit, see if I can unlock that.
Oh,
right?
so somatic.
Just
Yes.
that act of doing it in front of your kid is going to train your own body while you are modeling and training them, which I think is so cool.
Great. Well, we are just about at time. I wanted to just start to wrap up here, and thank you for coming on to talk about some of this stuff. There's definitely a lot to talk about here. I love hearing all your thoughts on these things. And Erika, did you have any closing remarks? I will put the links on how to get in touch with you in the comments once we get off a bit later on.
Elisabeth Stitt's website is exactly how it's spelled there in her box, her rectangle, and .com. And thank you for putting in the links, David. And thank you for being with us today. If you are a parent, or you're in a pod of people that is pulling out their hair with some kind of a child representative, or a teen, tween, humanoid, like, reach out to Elisabeth. She will get you supported with strategies, tools, and techniques to rock it and to have some fun. I love what you do. I love how you have the best summer ever programs. Like that's coming this spring for families to have the best summer ever.
Emma,
Ever.
right, Sophie?
Yeah. I wanna come to that class. Yes.
Yeah,
So
sure.
thank you for joining us today, and please share this and let's get some good juicy convo going. And thanks again, David, Kirsten, you created this ripple effect, and I love what you do too. So gratitude and joy to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool.
Thanks a lot, guys. And yeah, next week we have another coach. My business coach is coming back, Pradna Leitner. She's also a mom too, and she's a business coach, but she has these coaching thoughts on the kids, which are imagine that, being a coach and then coaching your kids. I'd love to see how these coaches deal with their kids, kind of like a real world type setting, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
we should have like a summit sometime for parent coaches, and we could have like a duke it out.
Well, okay, so what I love, Pradnya is amazing, right?
He's so
And
amazing.
have you ever met another person on the planet who just radiates like such depth and thoughtfulness? I mean, she's amazing in that way. And she's a great example because I would go to Pradnya for parenting coaching because she does just have this grounded, deep, thoughtful thinking essence around her, which it would be a great kind of energy, right, for somebody else to get. So it's a good example of how we can look at the same topic from a lot of different views and we bring different energy to it. And so that really allows people to kind of say, what's the energy that I need
yeah.
in order to move forward in this area?
No,
Yeah.
great. I'm gonna actually, if we have time next week, ask her some of this stuff about um her parenting as well. And because she does have, it is a big part of her life and she talks about it. I think it makes her a better coach, and you know, because it takes so much persistence with kids, you know, even more so than with adults, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, and for if you're tuning in and you want to put in the chat what kind of character you are from Winnie the Pooh, I want to hear. Okay. Thank you, David. Let's close this out and have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Okay, bye everyone. Thanks for joining us
Thank
on the
you.
Ripple
Thanks
Effect.
so much for having me.